On the 12th of March 2015, a bunch of nerdy-ass voice actors sat down to play Dungeons & Dragons live on stream for the first time, and I have no doubt none of them knew how big it would have gotten in the following years. Looking back at that first episode on YouTube, it now has 15 million views. Yep, that's right, 15 million people have watched a D&D group play D&D. Well, we are going to break down all of the factors that added up to make Critical Role the success that it was. Let's start with probably the most obvious reason for its success: the people. The Dungeon Master and the players are all very talented professional actors. As such, when they're role-playing their characters in Dungeons & Dragons, they get much more immersed and are a lot more convincing as a viewer than someone like me who has had no acting training at all. This instantly helps the show stand out amongst others, as they can all do unique voices, portray emotion perfectly through their voices, and understand how to perform for the viewers. This definitely helps Matthew Mercer, the Dungeon Master, when trying to play all the NPCs throughout the campaign. The amount of unique voices he can pull to the table, sometimes with no warning at all, is incredible, and from a viewer's point of view, it really helps to immerse you in the story and understand the different characters that he's bringing to life. Another reason these players are perfect to make a live stream as big as Critical Role is because they all have their own unique personalities. This means as a viewer you might gravitate towards someone that you enjoy watching more than another, but a completely different viewer might have a different player that they gravitate towards. The spread of personalities at the table also shows the viewership that all kinds of people can play D&D, and that's okay. For many years, D&D players have been stereotyped in a certain way, but Critical Role has showed us that this isn't the case. And the last point to bring up about the players is that before the stream even started, they were all friends, and that really comes across on camera. Watching a group play D&D together who don't know each other very well is a big difference compared to a group that already have chemistry and in-jokes. Watching the way they interact with each other as friends makes it easier to invite the viewer to feel comfortable at the table, as if they were one of the friends as well. There are quite a few factors when it comes to time that helped Critical Role become a success. The first and most obvious one is that they were early to the party. They definitely weren't the first people to stream Dungeons & Dragons, but they were definitely one of a few at the time they started, meaning there was less competition. Now there are thousands of streams out there, so if you are starting a Dungeons & Dragons stream yourself, it's going to be a lot harder. They also started Critical Role at a great time for live streaming and online video content. Twitch had been rising in popularity for years, kids at school were saying they wanted to be a YouTuber when they grow up instead of an astronaut, and people would happily listen to podcasts that were 3 to 4 hours long. If they had started Critical Roles 5 years prior to this, when the online video content industry was very different, who knows if they would have actually been a success. And the final point on time is that Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition had been released not long before they started. This edition was designed to be easier to understand, easier to pick up and easier to play, and apparently easier to watch, although I don't think the developers expected that. With the watering down of the mechanics, it helped segue D&D into a streamable game where you don't have to spend 10 minutes doing maths and looking at tables to work out how much damage you've done. It's obvious when you watch the show that a lot of love goes into it. Love into the story from Matt the DM, love into the community by the additional shows they make, and love between each other for the fun they're having at the table. This has helped to keep them consistent, only missing a very few weeks over the 6 years they've been streaming. Why wouldn't you want to come to a table each week with a bunch of friends and play a game you enjoy if you love doing it? And something to highlight here is how this love has led Matt to create amazing stories and an amazing world. You can tell the amount of effort he puts into his world and into his stories he tells on the show. I truly believe this is because he loves doing it. The production of Critical Role has gotten better and better over the years, but even on day one it was pretty good. They had multiple camera angles looking at the table, the players and the DM, they had graphics that would show up on the screen and the chat scrolling by. Although this might not sound like much now, back then this was classed as good production compared to all the other streams out there. Something that is quite often overlooked when talking about the success of Critical Role is the support they had from Geek and Sundry. In case you're not aware, Critical Role started as a show on the Geek and Sundry network, and this is a community that already had over 1 million followers. You have to acknowledge this when thinking about why they were successful, because without this they wouldn't have had the audience from day one, and therefore they might not have grown so quickly. On top of what they had at day one, they have continued to grow and evolve the production. They now have a map cam, an animated intro, better graphics and much more. They could have stuck with the production quality they started with and still probably would have been very successful, but the fact they kept pushing the bar and making it better has kept them on top. Probably the most important reason for the success of Critical Role is the community. The members of Critical Role really have mastered the ability to build a community. They're all very active on social media, they have made additional shows to complement Critical Role, and they have given recognition to community members who deserve it through GIF of the Week and Fan Art of the Week. The reason it snowballed from being a successful show into the mammoth it is now is because of the community. The people behind Critical Role have nurtured and grown a community of accepting, talented people who love and support each other. Although it's probably gotten too big to handle every community member now, in the early days they would show every bit of fan art they got on the break. And Liam would know all of the artists by name without having to go and looking them up, showing that he truly cared. Even now that it is a massive show, they use their fan artists in the publications they create and still in their streams. Without the ability to build a community like they have, I truly don't think Critical Role would have been as big of a success as it was. Thank you all for watching my video, and thank you to the members of Critical Role for putting on such an entertaining stream that so many people love and can connect over. I'd love to hear why you think Critical Role has been such a success, so let me know down in the comments if I missed anything out or if you think I hit the nail on the head with any of these points. And if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm to show it to more people who might want to learn about Critical Role. But until next time, happy gaming.